everyone's geared towards self-preservation. But I don't think na okay lang na sabihin natin na parang masama lahat ng people na nang lay off. Kasi you have to understand, it's a case-by-case, case-per-case way of looking at
Cases.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have to
These cases?
consider the future also in this. I mean, these businesses, they're also looking ahead of themselves. It's not
Yeah.
like, I mean, this is why they have a business in the first place. You know, it's to preserve, to preserve themselves, their family. So it's still innate to them to save. To save their businesses. I mean, if they're just
sure.
gonna, if it's
Mhm.
just for the sake of everybody
Prepare.
else, then what is the use of them, even putting up with that
Yeah.
business?
Sakto naman. No, you hit the nail on the head. I think it's as simple as that. But obviously now, in a time like this, especially the fact that it's coming from the four of us, people who are much more politically and economically minded, I feel as though now is the time to be extremely critical, which is exactly why we brought up those points. But I feel like there's a lot more to divulge in because I think we're going to get into a lot more deeper topics here.
Yeah, so okay, with that being said, we have the high unemployment rate. And without a doubt, this is gonna lead to the people's debt to the government.
God.
Mm.
So
My
bad.
gosh, so
So
big.
bad.
Mhm.
So, do you think that the government should make compromises for these people?
Heavy.
They should.
Yeah, I
They
think,
definitely should. They've been put into place to do so.
yeah.
To govern and all other benefits considered. But the thing is, they're not.
Exactly.
You can say naman that they have an assumption to do it, but the way I see things now, their execution is less than lackluster.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
No.
For
No
sure.
contest.
I mean,
No
okay,
contest.
I hope I don't get like for this, but an
Uh,
Oh
example
no,
of
no,
this
no, 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 no.
is the shutting down of ABS-CBN. Those 11,000 people who might not have savings to keep themselves afloat while they're unemployed, where are they gonna resort? SSS loans, pag-ibig loans, and stuff like that to stay afloat during this time when it's hard to get interviews, it's hard to get jobs. I mean, yung mga tao nga na-employed na na-unemployed, makikisali ka pa dun
Oh,
sa, di ba? Makikisali ka pa
boom.
dun sa pool of people who are looking for jobs. So I think the growth of personal debt in this country, lalaki din siya along with the unemployment, especially kasi hindi naman natin maaasahan yung government kasi wala tayong pera. I mean, that's what they're saying, that we can't afford to support everyone. That's what they're saying though.
Tama naman. And I think if we look at it from that perspective naman, if we're gonna go into the whole debate about, debt and oh my god, there's so much money, what are we gonna do with it? Or we're losing money. At the end of the day, right, with the infrastructure needed to sustain oneself in a pandemic, let's also look at other nations. I'm gonna bring it up right now just so it's not brought up later. Obviously we can look at other nations such as I think it was Thailand. Yeah. One other nation around here, if you didn't know, they were affected by SARS, which was pretty much also a disease, although not to this length and not to this scope. But in that same vein, they were able to use that time spent to develop more infrastructure, whether it was medical or social or for jobs, which is what we're on right now. It was able to provide a sort of, how do I say this? Fail safe for people so that in a sense it would happen again, which is right now, they'd be stable. And if you look at Thailand now, oh my God, they're doing fine. They're doing they're doing way better than us.
Yeah.
So in that
Yun lang
sense,
standard.
oh, our
Wait, so
standards
that
really don't there.
I'm growing a bit confused. So kanina we're talking about people, the citizens, and they have their own faults. The government as well has a lot of faults.
Mm.
So who do you think has the bigger responsibility in the issue?
Which is why I'm bringing that point up because I feel as though
Getting
at the
there.
end of the day,
I'm
bring
so
it back,
sorry.
bring it back. Sorry.
Getting there.
Getting there, we're right there.
Mhm.
The government that has done their job in Thailand, we see it can happen. So I am going to put it down right now that at the end of the day, primary accountability lies within the hands that control an entire nation. So we can boil it down to semantics and such. And I know that there's a lot of depth to it. But at the end of the day, evidence points that in the past 5 months, we simply don't have enough to sustain at this point. Now, obviously, I can go into the whole concept and idea of mass testing or the whole concept of our debt, our unemployment rates. That tells me enough that the leading bodies haven't done enough to focus in on what should be done. But in
Yeah.
that sense, yeah, okay, go ahead.
That's a lot hindi naman, not saying it's too much of a burden on the government, but
What?
it's an unfair indictment on them kasi my point is, if early on the people listened, when they still had the capabilities to survive long term, as in a month or two during the pandemic, if nakinig sila, if ginawa nila yung part nila, we wouldn't be in this situation.
Tama naman.
Oh,
Oh.
wait.
Ay,
So
in a
I'm
okay, go.
going. I wanna use a comparison also, like how Rock used. I wanna compare us to the states,
Ooh.
Mhm.
one of the most powerful countries, right? But their mismanagement on COVID is almost as bad as ours, if not worse.
Probably worse. No. Yeah.
Diba? Worse. And it also started with the idea that their government was denying the presence or the mis the misplacing of priorities. Like in the States, they're putting it off. There's no COVID here. COVID's not a big deal. COVID is fake. And in the
COVID is
Philippines,
fake.
yeah, di ba may news na gano'n na
Yeah.
parang COVID is a coup to like get someone out of office. But in the Philippines then, tourists went here from a certain place that had COVID. And what did we do? What did our government do? Nothing. For what, in the name of tourism? So how will you say that the people did not act when they were capable, when the government, who should have known, when who declared not who, WHO, I'm sorry.
Ooh,
When
layered
WHO
joke.
when WHO declared it as an international health emergency and we didn't act. So you can't say that the people didn't act early enough when the government who had the capacity to act immediately, to the extent nga na hindi makakapasok dito ang COVID, hindi nila ginawa.
Yes, but you also have to take into account na months before tayo nag-start ng lockdown or confirmed cases, we've seen what happened to China and other countries.
Tama.
And you can also say na, siguro people are ignorant on the issue. It's kaya nga, hence the name, novel coronavirus. It's a new thing. But we've had severe outbreaks before. SARS, MERS, swine flu in Africa. Look, the fact is, you can't feign ignorance or lack of responsibility just because hindi nangyari sa atin yun. It's
Very
ultimately
true.
possible na yung transmission nun umabot sa atin, but yes, it's great na hindi nangyari. Well, now nangyari na. And the fact is, people should have done something.
Yeah, but do you think the people have enough power to do that? You think they're actually capable
I feel as though
to do what you think they have to do?
On a macro scale, on a macrocosmic, I don't believe so. That's the point of a government, right, as a nation. But according to what Pili said, this whole ideal of ignorance, right? And from what I said way back when we started, how the Philippines, a lot of their people aren't educated enough, aren't aware yet of what's around them. I believe that in that sense, I stand by with him as well in saying that in the things that we do, like little by little, I'll bring up examples. simply standing 5 feet away, like that's already a consistent thought that you can do for the foreseeable months that will do so much. Now in that same sense, you can look around you and a lot of people simply aren't continuing to do that. At least maybe they did it in the first few months, but we're like half a year in and it seems as though this consistency is starting to wane. So in that sense, the fact that there's already a lacking, in my opinion, a lacking governance, the people should be held to a more accountable sense in that everyone has to now continue to do their part. And if they're doing the wrong thing, then we hold them responsible for that.
Yeah,
I know.
Really get it.
You guys, Raffie, Francis, could be imagining something completely different. What I'm talking about, okay, before tayo nag-lockdown, before lumala yung situations natin, China was on lockdown for months. Ang tagal na nun, ah. And the guidelines are relatively simple, again, as mentioned before. So it's not fair to say na, why would you expect these people to do that when it's easily done? It's manageable.
Okay. From my point of view kasi, you can't put a bigger responsibility or more accountability on the people when the government has more power. So if you say nga na, okay, we saw na China was on lockdown before we were on lockdown, so we should have taken precaution. Pero how are we gonna take precaution when the people who are leading us don't even take it seriously? Like, okay, I'm gonna go into, I think I learned this in one of my classes last year.
Yeah.
Most
Go.
primitive definition of a government is when people give up part of their freedom to follow rules so that this higher up person that they put in position can protect them. So
Yeah.
how are you going to follow, how are you going to do the right thing when the government or the governing body of your country doesn't even acknowledge that there's something wrong? So
Exactly.
Okay.
I didn't know better.
There
Diba?
lies the confusion between us. I agree with you. Look, the government, given their power and capability, should have done better. Pero my point is, siguro personally, I'm discrediting them at this point because they haven't done enough.
Mm.
Again, a less than satisfactory job.
Yeah, you can
So
say it.
I'm
Don't worry.
turning to the
Yeah.
people that at least we can hopefully do something about it because they don't seem to be doing so. The
Well,
Oh,
government.
definitely. No. I'll bring this up to, I guess, to support that claim because, in a sense, for me personally, I see both sides as having equal stakes. Let me bring this up: local governance. Now, in the sense that what Francis mentioned, in that the accountability lies within the higher power that has the higher responsibility, I can say at least that I'm not gonna bring up percentages, but I'd say a good quarter are doing their part. Let me bring up obviously the most famous man in the Philippines right now, Vico Soto.
Oh,
Obviously,
not
Pasig. Yep, he's doing a bang up job. He's doing so much for the community, and I don't think anyone can discredit that. For me in Taguig, our officials are doing their best at relaying information, making sure people have their rapid test kits frequently, and making sure that the awareness is there. So in that sense, yes, I do believe that there is merit to both sides, but I will say this. Now is, again, I'm going to say this one more time, now's the time to be critical. Because with the government, as what I said, there's a lot of depth to it. Now, with what you said, Pili, that you discount it wholly because obviously they have not been doing a good job. That's true. But I feel as though I stand with Francis on the fact that once we start pinning that focus, that 100% focus, which I get the feel of, on people, it's as if we're starting to lose our eye on the government itself. It feels as though we're going to start waning in the sense that we're putting pressure on them to do better, which is what we should be doing, and in which
Exactly. Want to see your whole discussion? Visit our YouTube channel linked in the caption to catch more weekly episodes and other videos. Visit our Spotify account to tune into the podcast. And is there anything you want us to talk about? Comment down below and we'll make sure to hear you guys out.